What is up, everybody? Welcome back to 9 to 5 Gamers, and today is Top 10 Tuesday. That means we have another Top 10, and today's Top 10 was an idea that was brought to us by one of our members. Speaking of memberships, go ahead and check out our memberships that we have. I know YouTube demonetized me recently, and there was some issues with that, but hopefully all that gets cleared up. But if anything, I also have a Patreon that you guys can check out. It's 9 to 5 Gamers over on Patreon. I'll have a link inside on my channel that you can click on. But memberships are super low and in price, the lowest that they would allow me to make them. And I hope that you guys check those out, because for a very low price you guys can get early access to videos, exclusive videos, and a bunch of really cool content. But anyways, without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and in the comment section, today's video we are doing a list of well, for example, have you ever heard "Don't judge a book by its cover"? Well, I'm gonna say that for today's games, don't judge these games by their covers. And so these are games that don't look the most appealing. When you look at the box, you might go, what is it about? Like, you can't even really tell what the game is about just by looking at the box. But for the most part, they're really good games. And so I'm excited to share this list with you. So in the comment section, name a game that you judged by its cover and then later on played and went, wow, that was a really good game, and I did not expect it to be that good. So without further ado, let's get into this top 10 list. My number 10 is a game that I actually just played recently, and it is one of the ugliest looking covers I've ever seen in my life. And I hope that whoever did the artwork on these, I apologize, because I say things like that, and that's rude because somebody made this cover. But at the same time, who's gonna want to play Bonanza? Like, honestly speaking, like, look at this. Look at this. Ain't nobody gonna play this game. You find this game, you probably pass it up. But it's so good. It is by Uwe Rosenberg, right? Yep, Uwe Rosenberg, and he created this weird bean card game that in this game you just collecting sets. It's a set collection game where you're collecting sets of different beans. But the cool part about it is that as you're playing the game, you have to plant, and you only have 2 fields to plant in, and so you have to plant only the same type of beans, and so you have to plant on your turn. So sometimes you end up having to replace a big set of them, so you'll have to sell that set and then start a new set. But then you can trade with people, and not only can you trade, you can just be nice and just be like, you know what, just take my beans. But really, it seems like you're being nice, but really you're just trying to get them out of the way, because kind of like in Scout, where all the cards are kind of in order in your hand and you're not allowed to rearrange them, it's the same process in this game, is that you can only play the cards in the order they are in your hands. Dude, this game is phenomenal, and I found this at a GameStop for $5. Such a good deal. It's a very fun game. Trust me, if you have the right play group for this and you guys just like to have a lot of fun and trade each other and barter and gamble and things like that, it's a really good game. So you guys got to check out Bonanza. My number 9 on the list, and again, these aren't really in order per se of, like, I did kind of rank them on Pub Meeple, so they're not exactly in order of like which one's the best, but Bristol 1350, sorry. Bristol 1350 is actually a very fun game where it could play up to 9 people, and everybody's inside of, you have 3 players in each cart. There are 3 carts, and you're racing to the finish line to get to the end of the map, and once you get to cross the finish line, you win the game. However, there's a little twist where people are sick in each of the carts, and so everybody has these symptom cards, and if your symptom cards, when you add the 2, you get 2 of them, and when you add them together, if they go above a 6, then you now have the bubonic plague, and you have to try to spread it to everybody. Once you get the plague, you can't unget it, and so throughout the whole entire game, you're just trying to derail everybody after that. But it's really fun. You just roll dice and race and kick people out of your carts and shove them to the back of the cart and push your way to the front, try to leap into the cart in front of you. It's a very fun game. I highly recommend everybody trying Bristol at least once. But by the cover, and it's funny too, because it's like, don't judge a book by its cover. It's because the cover actually looks like a book. And some might say that's actually really pretty, but the thing is, there's nothing on the back of this. Like, you would look at this game and go, okay, is this even a board game? And then you open this sucker up and you're like, oh my gosh, it's got a neoprene mat and everything. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. So Bristol is actually a really cool game that you don't want to judge by the cover. Another great game, my number 8, that you don't want to judge by the cover, and it just came out with the 10th anniversary, and I'm excited to get my hands on it. That is Boss Monster. This is a dungeon building card game, and basically the way that this game works is that you are building. I always tell people, I try to explain it like Mario, but in reverse. You know, so Mario, you play the hero racing through a dungeon to try to get to the boss. But in this game, you play as a boss building a dungeon to kill the Mario. And literally, Mario and Luigi are in the game. Like, there's different funny 8-bit characters in it. And when you look at the front cover, it doesn't look like much. Like, the artwork is great, though. Like, don't get me wrong, this is not bad artwork. But when you look at this game, you don't think, oh, this game is going to be fun. But it really, really is. Like, you guys should honestly give this game a try. This is actually me and my wife's, like, #1 game. Like, because it was a game that this was like the first game that we started playing, and this is what kind of got us into board games and card games. And so I've always loved Boss Monster. I think more people need to check it out. That's a hidden gem, underrated, very much so. My number 7 is a game called Biblios, Quill and Parchment. Artwork is fine, but yeah, I mean, and the fact that it says Biblios, you might think it's like a Bible game. But you play as like a monk, and you are writing, you're like a scribe writing parchments and books and things like that, and it's a dice game where you roll dice and collecting. But it's actually a really deep and fun game because at the beginning of the game, you are trying to gain points, and then those that you do that for the first half of the game, and then all the points that you accumulate, you spend them in the second half of the game to buy dice, to write books, and it's kind of like a flip and write game. It's roll and write. I don't even know how to exactly explain what this game is. It's just really, really fun, and I highly recommend everybody checking this game out because I really like Biblios, Quill and Parchment. Thought it was a really good game. And don't get it confused with the actual Biblios board game. There's a Biblios board game. This one's called Biblios, Quill and Parchment. Very, very fun. But again, you wouldn't have even known it was a good game unless you actually just give it a try. So give it a try. My next one, my number 6, is a game called Great Plains. When you look at this game, it looks super plain. It's got some kind of a fox and a snake, and that's it. Some constellations. But when you look at it on the inside, it's actually a really cool area control game, where you are putting out your foxes, the other player. It's a 2-player only game, and you're trying to just take over the land. And there's certain movements that you can do with your characters. They move in certain ways, and then you collect these little things that you can use to maneuver in certain ways, where you can literally drop one of your characters in and you can push people off the map. It's actually really, really fun. And the cool point is, the cool part about it that I like is that the board is modular. So it's made of these little hexagons or octagon shaped tiles, but those things get flipped upside down and they're different on all sides, and then you arrange them in different patterns, and it makes the game fresh every single time you play it so that it's not the same thing. Great Plains. Don't judge it by its cover. It's actually very, very, very good. Oh, I did all of these incorrect, so I'm going to have to redo this to be like this. All right. Next game is a game that I tell people all the time not to judge it by its cover because it looks weird. Like, this is just a classic example of a game that looks weird, and you probably wouldn't buy it just because of the look of the front cover. And you'd probably say to yourself, this game, there's no way that this game is that good. This game is very good. As a matter of fact, it reminds me of Return to Dark Tower, but just super accessible and a lot easier to get to the table than Return to Dark Tower, obviously, but it's like a smaller version of that, where you're dropping stuff into the center and it goes out into different areas and destroys things, just in that respect. But it is a deck building game, actually, that's actually really, really fun. And you have these characters who are going back in time, and as you're time traveling, you can do these loops, which are really fun, where you can use an ability, and you can use several of your cards' abilities, and then when you loop, you reset all the cards that have the same symbol, so you could reuse them again. And so you can continue to loop as long as you have the money to pay for it. It's just a really fun game where you're trying to stop Dr. Foe from destroying time, and you have these objectives you have to meet. I don't even know how else to describe it. It's just really, really fun. Don't judge it by its cover. It's a very, very good game. The artwork is not bad. The artwork is actually really good, but the game itself is actually a lot more fun than you would think it is just by looking at the front cover. So don't judge that game by its cover. My number 4 is a game called Barren Park, and Barren Park doesn't look great either. And when you look at the front cover of this, I mean, the artwork is fine, but again, you'd look at this and be like, I remember taking it over to a friend of mine's house, and I pulled it out, and I was like, hey, we got a couple of games that we could choose from, and they looked at this game like, what is that about? And I was just like, it's really fun, trust me. And it actually really is. And basically, Barren Park, you just build your own little bear park, and you have these little tiles where it's polyomino, so you're taking these little polyomino pieces and placing them in your parks, and then you can build your park and add more land to it, and it's just really cool, man. You just get polyominoes. It's so simple, and again, because it's Phil Walker Harding, praise be. Oop. Phil Walker Harding's great at making these welcoming games, and that Barren Park is so good. So that's my number 4, Barren Park. It's a really cool game where you build parks, a bear park, and with polyominoes. It's really fun. Don't judge it by its cover. It is a great game. Another game you should not judge by its cover, and I learned this one like recently, is Millfiori, which is pronounced Millfiori, apparently. So I had to Google how to say it, because I was like, is it Millfiori or is it Millfiori? Because I've heard both, but it's neither. It's Millfiori. And so, but I'm just going to call it Millfiori. Millfiori is really, really, all that work, and I'm not even going to call it that. I'm so stupid. Anyways, I played this game at Dice Tower East and immediately bought a copy because it's just so good. But the front cover is like pretty, but at the same time, doesn't really communicate what the game is really about, and you've got the back of the cover, you know what I mean, that you can look at. But honestly, this is the type of game that I feel like people would pass up, and you're missing out. Actually, Alex Radcliffe just did it at Board Game Code, just did a review of this game, and I was like, yo, he just did a review right when I just finished playing it and adding it into all my lists of greatness. That I love this game, and so does Alex. He thought it was really good as well. This is a fantastic game. You're missing out if you don't play this game. At least play it. I think every one of these games, I'm not saying you have to own these games, but this is definitely one you've got to play. It's so much fun. Basically, there's no theme. The theme is pointless, but you're a glass worker and you're trying to start an empire of glassworking, and the way you do that is by gaining goods and different things in different areas of the town map. But it's drafting, and so you get a hand of 5 cards. You pick a card, put it face down, and then pass the cards. Then afterwards, everybody flips their cards over, and then you place a piece of your stained glass onto the map in one of the areas that it belongs to according to the card you played, and whoever has the most points at the end. But man, you get a lot of points in this game. You can get like 200-300 points. It's not the type of game where it's like, oh yeah, you get 10 points and you win. No, this is like you're sitting there playing and you're just looping the whole entire board, man. It's so much fun. But I love Millfiori. It's actually one of my favorite games right now. And you honestly shouldn't judge it by its cover. My number 2 game that you should never judge by its cover is this tiny little game called Scout, because I feel like this is one of those games that I think everybody's well aware this is a great game, because I think everybody's already heard all the hype on it. But let me tell you something. The hype does not do this game justice. This is my favorite card game. Like, there's Uno and Phase 10 and all those card games that exist. I just tell people, I'm like, hey, look, I'm going to bring a card game. We can play it. Boom. And I take out Scout. And people look at that and they go, what the heck is this? This is like a circus game. I mean, it's pretty. Like the orange and the blue and the yellow. Aesthetically, it looks nice. But it's like, it's such a tiny little box, and you would think that it's not that great of a game, but it is super good. Don't judge this game by its cover at all. Scout is incredible. People hype it up for a reason. It's very, very good, but it's very easy to pass this game up. You can forget that it even exists. It's such a small game. It's not easy to find, but when you finally get your hands on a copy of this, if you ever see one, pick it up. I guarantee you this game is amazing, and I think everybody would really love to play it. And my last game that I think is kind of ugly looking, but is super good. That's Orleans. Orleans is an amazing game. Recently played it. It's a bag builder, so it's a lot like Quacks at Quedlinburg, Wonderland's War. What other games? There's a couple of other games that are bag builders, but I can't think of any at the top, off the top of my head. But Orleans is really fun, and you're basically, it's like worker placement, but you are pulling your workers out of a bag blindly, and so you don't really know which workers you're going to get unless you build towards to build those workers into your bag, right? And so you're gaining workers, building your workers out. There's these events that happen each turn. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, and it's just a really, really fun game. And it's really cool to just pull all those chips out of your bag and be able to worker place them onto your board and get more chips and then score points. I like this game. It doesn't look like a great game. Like when you look at it, it's like, okay, well, what is it about? And then what doesn't help either is when you look at the actual like game itself, it doesn't look that great either. But I promise you, it is a very good game, and that's why it's my number one. Even though they're really not in a particular order, although they kind of are ranked. But like I said, these are games that I think you would really enjoy, but it's very easy to look at them and want to pass them up because they just don't look that appealing, but they really, really are great games. So anyway, that's it for my top 10. What do you guys think about this list? Why don't you add to this list by going into the comment section and telling me what's a good game that just looks like you would just pass it up. Not necessarily that it's ugly, but that it's like, man, I would have never thought to pick this game up, and then whenever I got it, because I felt that way about Artisans of Splendidvale. Like it's really pretty, but it didn't exactly, like, that artwork was very bright and didn't communicate what was inside the box to me at all. I was like, wow, inside the box it's a whole nother monster. And I think there's a lot of games like that. So tell me in the comment section, what are some games that you have played that didn't necessarily think they looked very good on the outside, but on the inside they were full of juicy goodness. So anyways, love you guys. Have a good night. I always say that now, but just catch you on the flippity flip, and y'all already know the dealio. Peace out. What is up, everybody? Oh, let me try again. Reverse it. Flip the thing down, flip it and reverse it. It's yo from an Millfiori. It's yo from a Millfiori. All right. Once again. You good, Mocha? Distracted me. Honestly, you kind of scared me. Yeah, look at you with your little mohawk. Hi, baby. You doing good? You just want attentions. You just want attentions. Making little piggy noises. You're your baby. You're your baby. Alright, down. Thank you. Alright.